I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of Ohio Dance, and my role as Board of Trustees is I don't really know much about dance. I help them with a lot of legal compliance. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for 12 years. I do labor and employment law and cybersecurity law. Social media law is important, and it's become even more important because everybody's pretty much on it. That includes you, that includes your friends, it includes business owners, it includes customers. But what we're seeing is a lot of HR professionals, a lot of employers are actually going to social media to vet applicants. But one of the problems with vetting applicants to social media is that, as you know, there are a lot of things you're not allowed to look at an applicant. And the problem is that if you look at somebody on social media, a lot of things become readily apparent. Things that would not normally be on a resume. Your gender, your race. They can also find a lot of other things out about you by looking at your social media that they're not allowed to look at. Your age. Sometimes they can find out your religious affiliations. And one thing that has started causing a lot of problems in this area has been the genetic information. A lot of people will run for the cure because someone in their family has breast cancer. And so a lot of these things are on people's social media profiles. They're on their social media pages. Employers can see them. And so employers have to be really careful about how they screen applicants. And I don't say don't use social media. I say do use social media. I think social media is a great way to find applicants. It's a great way to find great applicants and find out if somebody is a true fit for your company. But the problem is that how you actually do it. And the one thing I tell my clients whenever I counsel them on how they can do social media background screens the right way is that the person who does the social media background screen is somebody completely different than the decision maker. So what's been happening is we've seen all these Facebook firing cases. People doing stuff on Facebook or social media, they're getting fired for it. Well, the NLRB has stepped in, and they've said you can't. In a lot of instances, your policies are too broad. They're overly vague. What you have to remember, too, that's really interesting, what a lot of people don't know, is everybody gets on social media, and they say, and I say free speech. You got to be really careful about free speech. And here's why. In the employment context, everyone's like, oh, I can say whatever I want. I have First Amendment free speech rights. There are two types of employment. There is public employment, and there is private employment. If you are hired by a private employer, you do not have free speech. If you are a public employee, so for example, you're an employee of this university. This is a state-run university. It is a public university. You have free speech rights. Anytime you see a Facebook firing case, or people defending that they got fired, somebody's like, I said something on social media. And we'll go through some of these cases, and they're like, I have freedom of speech. Yeah, but your employer who fired you was a private employer. It was McDonald's. It was, the Holiday Inn. That's private. You don't have those public, you don't have that freedom of speech rights. Unless I can get that covered under some other type of protected speech, like Section 7 of the NLRB that we talked about, concerted activity about terms and conditions of your employment, they could probably use it to fire you because they aren't public, they're private. So avoid making any statements about race and gender and things like that, or commenting on them, or even liking stuff like that. And like I said, it's not going to be your HR department that's going to catch it, it's going to be your coworkers every time, your frenemies. You need to look at the language of the release, because the language of the release, you need to have your employer tweak it, needs to say that the studio, including all of its employees, so that you can also have those rights. Because right now, if the release isn't broad enough, you do not have rights to those images. Yeah, you don't have rights to the images. You don't have rights to the identities. And it's actually put that in my thing, because I wrote an article for the Ohio Dance newsletter on that issue. And I do, sometimes if you read the Ohio Dance newsletter, I do write on the social media. I write on issues that are legal and that touch the dance community. Thank you guys so much for your time.